everyone. I'm Sabrina Johnson, and I'm a rising senior at Randolph College, majoring in elementary education. I had the opportunity this summer to work virtually with Dr. Cheryl Lindeman, who is the assistant professor in the education department. For our summer research project, we examined how do elementary mathematics and science teachers acquire strategies and content knowledge to promote student success. Next slide, please. Okay, so I will begin by giving a brief overview of how we went about approaching the project, and then move on to the demographics of our participants, and then direct you through the 5 sub-research questions that guided our qualitative analysis. Next slide, please. So why is our research important? Well, since there is no more federal funding for math and science partnerships, teachers are forced to make their own decisions on what professional developments they attend. We had the opportunity to invite elementary mathematics and science teachers to share their professional experience in an informational virtual environment this summer. And on a personal level, this study will be extremely valuable to me as I continue my teaching career. In education programs, pre-service teaching refers to a period of guided and supervised teaching in the classroom. What makes our study unique is that we had the opportunity to not only read, but also listen to how teachers self-reflect and develop their personal learning pathways. So now you may be wondering, what in the world are learning pathways? Next slide, please. So I'm give you a couple of our working definitions just to clarify our educational jargon. We based our research on the concept of deeper learning, as Linda Darling Hammond and Oakes defined in their recent book, as experiences equipping students with the skills to find, analyze, and apply knowledge in new and emerging contexts and situations, and prepare them for college, work, and civil participation in lifelong learning in a fast-changing and informational-rich world. So deeper learning involves students and teachers working together towards a common goal. So hold that thought and we'll come back to that. And then moving on to learning pathways. A learning pathway is the route or choices that teachers make on their own to strengthen their capacity for teaching and learning. Dr. Lemon and I have been referring to these pathways as stepping stones. Teachers are focused on learning pathways for their students, but in our research, we focused on capturing the teachers' reflections about their own personal learning pathways. In the education profession, we refer to this process as professional development, or PD. Next slide, please. So we identified 5 sub-questions that guided our 8 weeks of research. Within the 5 sub-questions, we had 5 themes, which were teaching philosophy, professional development, COVID-19 teaching changes, learning pathways, and pre-service teachers. Next slide, please. And here are the last 2 sub-questions that we used. And as a pre-service teacher myself, learning about veteran teachers' pathways and advice they have for pre-service teachers will not only be valuable to me, but also aid new teachers in the field. Next slide, please. Our modes of inquiry involved qualitative methods. First, we developed a survey, then conducted the virtual chats using Zoom, and finally analyzed and coded the plethora of data that we collected. And when I say plethora, I really do mean a huge plethora of data that we had collected. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do we begin developing our survey? We analyzed survey questions from the 2018 National Survey of Science and Mathematics Education and modified them for our survey. Permission was granted on the report to use and modify their questions as long as we cite them appropriately. We then sent our draft of our 11 survey questions and 6 virtual chat questions to our selected panel of external experts prior to requesting Randolph's IRB board approval. Once our IRB was approved, we developed our Google form, which is a type of surveying program. We created a letter of invitation to participate that was then distributed by email, and I will talk more about who we sent that email to later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So what was the difference between the survey questions and the virtual chat questions? Well, this graphic gives you the idea that while the virtual chat questions have a correlation to the survey questions, they had to be more engaging to elicit the meaningful conversations. Having done these virtual chats, I've realized that teachers are more willing to talk in a comfortable environment, and that these chats provided that for them. Next slide, please. And after evaluating all the transcripts from the virtual chats, we're able to get more detailed answers than just what the survey had provided. We're also able to ask the teacher follow-up questions about their responses during the virtual chats, not only for the responses they gave in the virtual chats, but also follow-up questions to what they had put in their survey answers. Next slide, please. As you can see in the graphic, we had 71 teachers respond to our survey over a period of 3 weeks, which is a great response rate. We're really super excited about that. And at the end of the survey, there was an option to sign up for our virtual chats. Our virtual chats invites were managed through Zoom, and we had anywhere from 1 to 4 teachers in each chat. During the chat, we had the set of those 6 questions, and those 6 questions allowed for more open discussion than the questions on the survey. We chatted with 15 of the 71 teachers, which gave us 21% of our total responses, which allowed us to hit our goal of 20%. Through these, we were able to speak to many wonderful teachers where they shared their advice and self-efficacy. And on another personal level, this opportunity was a lot more than what I would have been able to get in just a normal practicum assignment. Next slide, please. So we developed a plan to invite elementary teachers to participate in the survey by relying on teachers who had previously participated in Randolph College Chev Institutes, Randolph College Education alums, Randolph College Friends and Mentors, and the Randolph College Education Advisory Committee contacts, who then extended our invitation to their teachers. Next slide, please. So what is the profile of teachers' teaching experiences in the last 3 years? As you can see here, we focused our attention on the subjects the teachers taught with mathematics and science noted. We also asked them to indicate whether they taught in a private or public school. Next slide, please. Thanks to Dr. Lindeman, we were able to use Atlas TI, which is a coding program, to code our data this summer. We established 3 code groups, which were SRP, the Summer Research Program, Deeper Learning, and the NTAS standards. For the purpose of this presentation, we looked at the analysis of the surveys and the virtual chat questions for our SRP descriptions based on reading the transcripts and the components of the Deeper Learning definition. Further analysis will include the 3rd coding group, which are referenced to the National Teaching Standards. Next slide, please. Okay, so for our first sub-question, curiosity research by Markey and Weinstein challenges researchers to look for connections with the teacher's curiosity and their teaching perspectives. So that's why we include the question for the teachers, which was, to what extent is curiosity integrated into their teaching philosophies when promoting deeper learning and student success? We chose to begin our survey with this question to elicit teachers' sense of their own curiosity and if there is a relationship with their professional development preferences. Teachers were asked to select which statements or sentences applied to their teaching philosophy. The 4 statements are based on Cashian et al. 2009's curiosity trait research. So as you can see on the screen, A and C were stretching, which means to seek new information and experiences, while A and B were embracing novel experiences of everyday life. The higher percentage of participants indicating stretching traits were not surprising since that's what teachers normally do, versus the embracing traits that had a lower percentage might indicate teachers who concentrate on their own classroom. We plan to dive more into this data to understand other relationships of this question to the professional development responses. Next slide, please. Our second sub-question focused on how teachers express their professional development experiences pertaining to deeper learning. So going back to Linda Darling Hammond's definition of deeper learning, you can see that these teachers what these teachers are expressing relates directly back to deeper learning. They want their students to be equipped with the skills needed to apply knowledge and progress them to be lifelong learners. Next slide, please. Moving on to the third sub-question that we have, which is COVID. We use this virtual opportunity to our advantage and included this question about the COVID-19 online learning challenges. Many teachers believe that they should attend more professional developments that are centered around the use of technology, flipped classrooms, and the different approaches to hands-on learning, since hands-on science instruction will most likely suffer. Teachers express their concerns about how much remediation will be needed because they anticipate students will have gaps in their learning progress when they return to school in the fall. Next slide, please. For the purpose of this study, my challenge was identifying stepping stones and guideposts by translating what teachers shared on the survey and virtual chats. I clustered the stepping stones by differentiating the identifiable goals, processes, and outcomes. Next slide, please. So this is me in my mind. It's what I imagined as I worked through the comments and the codes and the stepping stones. And then I thought, what about the learning pathways? Like, what are they going to look like? Are they stepping stones? Are they guideposts? How do the teachers describe their processes? Next slide, please. So here is what I synthesized for work today. It is clear that the professional development was chosen to help their teaching, but their ultimate goal was to see students' excitement and enthusiasm, which were paramount to the test scores. Teachers wanted tangible strategies that they can bring back to the classroom and immediately use to have the students engaged and excited about learning new material. And from these are two separate learning pathways that I came up with. And I think when Dr. Linneman and I dive deeper into the research, we'll be able to see a couple more pathways. Next slide, please. So our final sub-question directly related to my interest of becoming a teacher. During my chats with the veteran teachers, they gave me a multitude of advice. Of the advice given, the four main points were repeatedly reiterated. So 1, be a lifelong learner. 2, seek out as many opportunities as possible during your first years of teaching. 3, find a positive and strong mentor to guide you. And 4, reach out and find professional development that speaks to your curiosity and what is within your content area. Next slide, please. So reiterating our original question and linking the data back to student success, here's our learning stepping stones added up. Next slide, please. And to summarize our findings today with 3 key areas. Teachers are empowered to continually improve their teaching. They express self-efficacy to take their personal need in learning content. Teachers express that teaching during COVID-19 will present challenges. There will be an urgency to learn more technology skills to help students and their parents. The advice I heard for pre-service teachers reinforced my understanding about veteran teachers' concerns and solutions for improving their daily practices. And then what am I going to be doing next with this research? Where is it going to go? I am excited that I've had this opportunity to begin my senior paper and continue this research. Dr. Linneman and I intend to present and publish the findings of this study. We'll actually be presenting live at the VAST conference, the VAST virtual conference in November. Next slide, please. And so the research process will continue for us. After collecting and analyzing this study's data, Dr. Linneman and I have realized that the story is far from over because teachers are always continually learning, and education in general is always changing. So we intend to continue the analysis of the data. Next slide, please. And here are a few references. Next slide. And thank you for listening.